can you do to put yourself in the best position to be understood the next time that you need to speak to someone in American English? Well, today we're going to be talking about some of the key fundamental strategies that you need in order to be understandable, but also have the most natural sound possible. So that way you can apply this to the very next time that you need to speak. All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, guys. Welcome to your American English pronunciation review show, the Schwa Mill. We are here Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, right around 7:30 a.m. New York, to give you feedback on pronunciation files that you send to us. And you can find in the video description a link where you can do just that in a free Telegram group. And to guide you in this process, there is me. Hello, my name is Geoff. It runs with breath. That's one of the 4 keys to a natural sound in American English, including placement, pitch, breath. Trying to weaken your consonant sound in order to strengthen your vowel sounds. We're going to be talking about all of those points, I imagine, a little bit today as we work through the 2 files that have been selected. I encourage you also, if you have questions or things like that, you can throw them into the chat, or if you're watching this in the replay, you can throw it in the comments and we'll address it in a future episode. Let's begin with our first clip for today and see what sort of feedback we can give.
I literally like my hard work for a second, and it's like I imagined another one of me.
Okay, let me play that one more time.
I literally like my hard work for a second, and it's like I imagined another one of me.
Okay. First of all, thank you to everyone who has sent us audio files. Let's talk a little bit about this file right here. Hello to Rudius. My apologies if I mispronounced that. Thanks for hanging out with us today. One of the things that's happening about halfway through, this file is, let me play it again.
I literally like my hard work for a second, and it's
okay. So you can notice what happens right around hard work is things start getting pretty tense, and we're losing some of the breath, and it feels like we're engaging the jaw and things like that a bit more. Rudy's asking us if they can ask a question. For sure. I can try my best to answer it. And so when that happens, and I'll try to show again where that is.
I literally like my hard work for a second, and
hard work for like we're just losing all of our breath and airflow, versus we started a little bit more open. Like I literally hard work. Do you kind of work for? Literally work for. Do you kind of hear that difference? We're really muffling the sound. I would really try to experiment with trying to give the vowels more space. I would really experiment with firmness and softness. That's something that we refer to a lot on the channel. We have some exercises on that because right now everything here is very firm as well. And if we're staying firm, that might make it easier to get into those moments where we kind of overly tense up and block breath.
I literally like my hard work for a second, and
okay, so for instance, for that part again, as an experiment with softness, you know, if you are unfamiliar with softness and firmness, compare talking like this. This is firm, and compare talking about this. This is soft. This is firm. This is soft. This is firm. This is soft. Okay, so it's not purely about volume. It's also just about you know, what you're doing with breath. Firmness oftentimes engages more muscles through here, kind of almost like squeezes the air through. It often cuts the breath at the ends of words. Softness allows more breath to come through. It softens some of those consonant sounds, softens the sound. One thing I might experiment with here is just try saying this whole thing like whispering. Okay, and not like loud whisper. No, don't talk like this. This is just a loud whisper. No, we're not trying to do that. Okay, but I would try to go as soft as possible. Hello to Ganchiam hanging out with us. Really trying to go as soft as possible. So I'd experiment whispering because everything we're saying right now is very firm.
I literally like my hard work for a second.
It's like, just try doing the whole thing whispering. And I know it might feel weird. And I'm not saying to actually talk like that, but I need us to understand the difference between when we talk firm and when we talk soft, because everything we're saying right now is very firm. Okay. And in fact, sometimes getting so firm that it's overly tensing, like on that work for part. The other thing I want to address with this file is the ending.
I literally like my hard work for a second, and it's like I imagined another one of me.
Okay, I'll be honest. That those last 3 seconds are a bit difficult for me to understand. Um, and so something I want us to consider if we're saying something and our listeners just not understanding it. Like for me, I'm just genuinely not understanding those last three parts. Some things to try doing to help with that. First of all, give more space to your vowel. So try, on your own when you're practicing, try just taking the vowels of the words that you're saying and start there. Make sure that our vowel sounds are working okay. Once you have the vowels, let's maybe give an example of a phrase that we could do this with. Like, um, let's use like, for instance, like the phrase like really nice day. Okay. So let's say that we're saying like really nice day, and like our listeners like I don't understand what you're saying. What you can do, start off with just your vowel sounds. So really, you have an e, a, then you have an I sound on nice, I, and then you have an A sound a. It's like a. And then maybe we can extend the vowels a little bit longer. It's like a, I, a. A. And make sure that your vowels are just really clear. Because if the listener can't even understand your vowels, it's going to be hard for your listener to understand anything you say. Okay, so start off just getting the vowels right. Once you feel confident in the vowels, then you can add your consonants back in. It's like A. Really nice day. A. Really nice day. Then, what you can work on is then incorporating elements of contrast. So, for instance, maybe pitch. So, decide what you want to stress. So, maybe we're going to stress the word day. Well, if that's the case, then everything else needs to move down in pitch. Day's going to go move up, and then really nice is going to move down. It's like a really nice day. Remember that right before a stress, you want to take the pitch an extra step down. Really nice day. Really nice day. You can also incorporate other elements of contrast as well, right? So, for instance, like maybe we'll go fast on really nice, and then we'll go slower on day. It's like really nice day, really nice day, really nice day. So, those are just some examples of elements of contrast you could do. You can also do firmness and softness. Like you could do soft, then firm. It's like really nice day, really nice day, really nice day. All those elements of contrast are going to make comprehension much, much, much easier for your listener. Because I think when we listen to the second half again,
I literally like my heart broke for a second, and it's like I imagined another one of me.
okay, um, that last part, um, again, there's like my center, like that part. Um, I think some of the vowels and things are getting a little bit lost because I'm not entirely sure what's being said there. I would also again make sure that the vowels are going right because that very last word, I think it's me.
I literally like my heart broke for a second, and it's like I imagined another one of me.
Because I feel like meh. But if that is me, then we need more of an E sound. So we don't want to reduce the E sounds. So that's why I'm not entirely sure if it's me. Maybe it's may. But this goes back to vowels, minimal pairs. Make sure that also, if there's any sounds, individual sounds that are worth studying American English, it's going to be vowel sounds. Because Americans, your listeners really differentiate between vowel sounds, little differences like E versus A versus eh. All these need to be different sounds. And if they sound too similar, then it can cause a problem. Okay, so pay attention to that as well. All right, I hope all that feedback is helpful with the elements of contrast, playing around with softness versus firmness, playing around with vowel sounds to make sure that the vowel clarity is there as well. Hello to Lisa hanging out with us as well. Great to see you again, miss. Let's take a listen to our second and final file for today.
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends. We ordered grilled chicken, rice, and vegetable. The food was fresh and really delicious.
Okay, play it one more time.
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends. We ordered grilled chicken, rice, and vegetable. The food was fresh and really delicious.
Okay, and thank you for signing this file as well. This feels to me almost like it was scripted. I don't know if you wrote this down and then said it, but that's the impression I have hearing it because it doesn't feel conversational. Okay. Um, it's nice. It's fine. I'll highlight a couple of things to watch out pronunciation wise, but then I'll also talk about real quick some strategies so that it doesn't sound so like we're reading from a script. If we are reading from a script, I don't know if we are or not, but that's just how it sounds. Um, so some little pronunciation things to watch out for here.
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends. We ordered grilled chicken, rice, and vegetable. The food was fresh and really delicious.
Okay, a couple things. First of all, we have a little bit of uptalk. Uptalk is that situation where you do a lot of rising intonation.
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends. We ordered grilled chicken, rice, and
Okay, you hear a little bit, especially in that first one. Like last Friday, I traveled, or whatever the exact words were, but you can hear that kind of just rising, rising, rising. So just kind of watch out for that. Um, Another thing to kind of watch out for here is the pacing. Okay, let's talk really quick about just the music of the language. English is stress timed. Um, this sounds like a Portuguese accent. Um, Romance languages are syllable timed, and that is a different rhythm. Okay, we in English we have to have some syllables that get weaker, softer, lighter, faster, and some syllables that are slightly longer, specifically the stress syllables. And right now everything is very balanced.
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends.
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with friends. Okay. Um, so what we need for this is that maybe we could decide what our stresses are. Like maybe we'll stress Friday, like last Friday. Last Friday. Do you hear the difference between last Friday and last Friday? Do you see that we made last faster? Um, what about the second part of that?
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends.
I traveled to a little restaurant. Um, what if we just stressed the word restaurant? I traveled to a little restaurant. Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant. Versus last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant. Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant. Do you see the difference? The first time was syllable timed. Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant. That's very syllable time. Versus last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant. That's more stress timed. Okay, so pay attention to just the kind of sentence rhythm that we're using because we need to incorporate more linking, more reductions, and things. In addition to
Last
that,
Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends. We ordered grilled chicken, rice, and
okay, let's talk really quick about your thought groups. So thought groups are groups of words that go together in a sentence before your next group of words. Thought groups are helpful because in every thought group, there's going to be one word that receives primary stress. It's possible to have all different types of thought groups in sentences. Some thought groups can be long, some thought groups can be short, things like that. What becomes a problem is when we use the same length of thought group for every thought group. So notice how the thought group breakup is here.
last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends.
And just this part. Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with some friends. So all of our thought groups are like in this like 2 to 3 word length. And what that can cause is a sentence that does what I call bobbing, where you have a lot of stresses and we just keep returning to the same pitch over and over again. Because it's like last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with some friends. So it's like I'm always in the same level. Whereas if we made our thought groups longer, like instead of saying last Friday, I traveled to a restaurant, if I said, let's say like, let me restart. Let's do like last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with some friends. Let's maybe stress Friday, restaurant. Let's just do those two and compare the rhythm. So the first time we'll do all 4 of those stresses, and then next time we'll just do 2. Okay. Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with some friends. Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with some friends. Do you hear a difference in rhythm? So when we have a mix of short thought groups and long thought groups, it's going to help our sentences sound a little bit more natural because there's going to be more contrast. We talked about contrast a lot with the first audio file as well. Um, some other things here.
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends. We ordered grilled chicken, rice.
Okay, so cutting out some of your stresses is going to help out a lot. Um, by cutting out some of your stresses, you'll have some longer thought groups, which will allow you to flow more. You'll be able to use more reductions and linking and things like that. The one final thing I'll say is that when you change a thought group, change the pitch. Change the thought group, change the pitch. So, for instance, if you wanted all these short thought groups, let's imagine you want all these short thought groups and stresses. Fine. Make sure that when you change thought group, you change the pitch level. Like last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with some friends. Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with some friends. Do you see that now? I still have a really short thought groups, but at least I have more of a pitch range, so that can also help it sound more natural too. All right, the very last thing I'll say about this, I mentioned at the beginning when I first heard this that it sounds a little bit like we're reading, and you may be like, well, how do I not sound like I'm reading a text? Even if I am reading a text, but maybe I'm not reading and I still sound like I am. So what can I do about that? The last thing I'll say is try to tap into the emotion of the thing you're saying, because right now you have this situation where you're talking about hanging out with friends. I imagine that you enjoyed being with your friends, and I imagine that you're eating food and you like the food and things like that. So kind of ask yourself, what's the emotion behind the message I'm trying to say?
Last Friday, I traveled to a little restaurant with three friends. We ordered grilled chicken, rice, and vegetable. The food was fresh and really delicious.
Right now, it sounds like we don't care. It sounds very flat. It's very neutral. It's very objective. You're describing things that themselves are pleasant, but the way that our voice is communicating is that we're just trying to do a job. We're just trying to make an audio file to send to Geoff. We're not really. That's all we're thinking about, and that's how it comes off. There's no real emotion here. It doesn't feel. There's nothing to really attach to and nothing to really stand out, and so the whole speech sounds flat. And if emotionally we feel flat, then the way we talk is going to be pretty flat as well. So I would say are you happy about this? If you're happy about this, then think about, what are some signs of happiness? How can you make your voice sound happy? How can you make your body sound happy? So for instance, maybe instead of reading it with a straight face, try tilting your head. A lot of people when they're happy, they tilt their head a little bit. Smile. Just smile for 3 seconds, then read this again. The last thing I'll say is get your hand involved. What are some things we can do with our hands that express joy? What can you do with something that's delicious? What's a gesture we can do with our hands? What can we do with our face? Because right now our body isn't really invested. It doesn't know what to do emotionally, and if the body doesn't know what to do emotionally, then we're not going to be able to read it in a way that sounds very natural either. A lot of times, the reason we have an accent or we're having pronunciation difficulties is because emotionally our body's not connected to the thing. We're staying very objective, and that's going to make it harder for what we say to sound more natural. Okay. By the way, that's what we honestly talk about in our Magnet Lab program a lot. Our Magnet Lab group coaching program is what meets every single day. Yeah. All right. Before we head out, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, which is me. Our sponsor today is our YouTube channel memberships. So our channel members get to see all of our group classes. We do multiple group classes every single day of the week, Monday through Friday. And if you would like to watch those, catch them on the replay because you're finding suggestions like we talk about here today helpful, well, imagine if you actually had some more dedicated time to practice. That's what it's all about. If you sign up, you get access already to, there's probably about 600 right now classes that you can take a look at. I don't expect you to look at all of them, but you get to watch the live ones. We'll be live in a couple hours, and as well as the evenings across different time zones as well. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you want to improve your pronunciation and sound more natural with the core concepts we talk about, adding more contrast, incorporating more body language, thinking about your breath and placement, then that might be something that you want to consider. You can take a look at our channel memberships below. There's a option that says join if you're watching on YouTube. All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Look, I can't do this without you. There are a lot of pronunciation resources out there. I'm very much aware of that. So the fact you spent time out of your day with me is appreciated. I'll see you all later. I hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon. Take care, guys.